I don't know it's be an hour. It'd be more like maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Really quick, we're going to do, the mayor's going to make a statement, and then we'll have time just for a few questions.
Yep.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah. I'm gonna be relatively quick. Just want to first of all thank you all for showing up this morning on such a short notice. I was a little caught off guard on the news of last night. Not necessarily surprised, but a little caught off guard. But I wanted to just come this morning, not necessarily to get through all the legalese of the governor's most recent filing in court, but just to reassure Tulsans that what you will find in there, particularly in some of the court filings, but also in the statements by the governor, are inaccurate. Would be the nicest way to describe it. I think a more direct way would be it is riddled with just lies. The notion that there's been any time where we have not enforced the law in this city is false, it's incorrect, it's an outright lie. The governor knows that. Governor does not care about that. Um, the fact is, just give you maybe a couple examples of that, and I don't know if there was any case that was cited where the governor can point to where we didn't enforce the law at any point in time. But I'm just going to give you a snapshot from just Operation Ceasefire over the last 8 weeks. Is a good snapshot of what it looks like to enforce the law in a city. In just the last 8 weeks, 88 felony arrests, 129 misdemeanor arrests. We've seized 157 firearms out of folks who have been noted dangerous to this community. We've had over 4,000 citizen contacts over that time, 22 uses of force, and only one complaint. I say all that to say as a snapshot, not only are we enforcing the law, but we're doing it in the most responsible ways possible, and we're getting dangerous people off the streets every day, no matter who they are, you know, what citizen of what nation they might be, or if they're non-native. That has not mattered throughout this entire time. Additionally, from a fact-based standpoint, crime is down this year in our mid-year report from last year when the policy of the city was a little bit different. So it is hard for us to, be hard for anybody to argue that this community is less safe. And so the city continues to enforce the laws of the city, of the state, and of this country. We're never not going to do that, and that's been where we've been. And I think the numbers would support that. On the other hand, you all might, since we're talking about not enforcing the state's laws in an area, you may have remembered the governor pulling the Oklahoma Highway Patrol out of the city of Tulsa. And so, what I think is interesting is that if he were to maybe more accurately file documentation or lawsuit based on who's not enforcing the law in Tulsa, he should probably replace Mayor Monroe Nichols with Governor Kevin Stitt. And that is the reality. And we've been really clear, even with the governor's disinterest in making sure that he is doing his part to make the city safe, that we'll pick up the slack. So not only are we doing the job of the city, we're also now doing the job of the state. And we're doing it with partners around the table who are in this community to help us make it happen. I think if you look at the numbers, we're as safe now as we've ever been. We're going to continue to make progress. We're going to continue to make progress with our partners. And in a short bit of time, I imagine we'll have a new governor that might be a little more interested in working with the cities in this state to make life better for people all across this great state of ours. I'd also add just additional context. In addition to the OHP being pulled out of the city, when I was in the legislature, you all may or may not remember, and again, you can go back and look at news articles and news reports and everything. You don't have to take my word for it. The governor also vetoed legislation that would have increased retirement benefits for those who have served in law enforcement. And so I'm just having a hard time accepting the criticism from somebody who's shown he's been disinterested in doing what's right by citizens of Tulsa, someone who's been disinterested in doing right by folks who have worn the uniform and worn a badge, and doing right, and somebody has been so disinterested in just following the law. The governor has not been successful, as best I can tell, in one significant case as related to Indian country. I don't know if that is because his politics is driving that way or because he's getting bad legal advice. I don't know the reason that is, but he is not an example to follow when it comes to public safety or it comes to relations with Indian country, and in fact, probably relationships with anybody who might disagree with him. This is a big, diverse city. We got to work on a bunch of different perspectives, and we got to do it together. So whether it is the work that we're doing in homelessness, in education, in economic development, the public safety work we're doing it with everybody who's a true partner in this community. And it's unfortunate that we don't have a governor of this state who chooses to be a partner. So with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have. Yep.
Good morning. Any word, have you had direct contact with him in the last 6 months since he's kind of been in office about
Yeah, look, I went to the governor had a conversation about this early in the legislative session. Went up to Oklahoma City. We disagreed on this particular issue, but I went to him. The governor did not come to me when it came to taking OHP out of Tulsa. He's not come to me about this deal. Since then, one of us behaves like an adult and is willing to have a conversation about something that is in accordance with the Constitution of the United States of America and the courts here in the state of Oklahoma. The other one of us decides to handle things a little bit differently by throwing, political grenades that are pretty flimsy from a legal standpoint. One of us has only been in his job for 8 months. The other's been in his job for 7 years. And it would be hard to imagine which one is which based on the behavior of good old Kevin.
Have you already talked to, or do you plan to have discussions with the tribal nations in the area
We,
about like what kind of the next steps for this are?
the next steps we're going to continue. We have a working group that's been established. The first meeting was yesterday to work through some of the technical challenges. Look, the agreement that we have been working on with the Creek Nation is one that has a ton of technical challenges in it, and we've got to work through those, and we're continuing to work through those. I've not talked to him about this in particular because we talk often as we're working through things that we're all concerned about. Everybody around the table is concerned about public safety. Everybody around the table knows that we have to get it right. Everybody around the table knows that we have to get it right in a very kind of logistically challenging setting. I mean, we're the largest city in the country that's all Indian reservation, so we got to figure out that's not easy. But we stay in constant communication. Again, I couldn't be any more sure that we're on the right path. But I also know that there's a lot of things we got to work out. So I've not talked to anybody since last night, but it's also because we feel like we're on a good path, and just because the governor has his newest, latest, and greatest idea of how to try to get in the way of progress. It didn't make me pick up the phone and worry anybody about it last night or this morning.
Oh, I apologize if I put this plainly, but between the lawsuit and this agreement, I gotta ask, are Tulsa police gonna enforce the law?
We've always enforced the law. That's not a question. It's not a real question. And that's the thing that everybody has to understand. There's never been a time where we're making a decision to enforce the law or not. It is the Tulsa Police Department. They enforce the law. The biggest job we have here is public safety. There has never been a time where enforcing the law was not part of the calculus. That's been the Creek Nation, the Cherokee Nation. Everybody knows that we have to enforce the law and is very much aligned on that has to be priority number one. The question on the table is who prosecutes who based on the crime that they committed. That's all that we're talking about here. So there's never been a time. That's why it's so dangerous to listen to somebody who will say anything to try to win a political battle. The law gets enforced. And if Kevin Stitt doesn't think that, he can ask his brother. His brother is at the center of one of these cases. His brother's been the one trying to matriculate this all the way to Supreme Court. His brother got a ticket after that. His brother's last ticket has been processed, and he's been held accountable. The governor knows we enforce the law here. And if he's unaware of that, maybe a family reunion or a Thanksgiving dinner can remind him that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we enforce the law, even if your last name is Stitt. You guys kind of look alike. It's just. Does that mean you're not going to ask a question then? That is true. I'm sure if he had options, he would he would try to do something. Again, like what everybody needs to understand, the governor's battle with tribal nations goes back long before I was mayor. This is a continuation of a political battle that he just can't get past. It started with compacts, so it started about money. Now it's about this. That's not my deal. My deal is making sure we're doing whatever we can to make sure that this city is safe. When I got elected, we were sitting on, I think it's 400 cases, about 100 defendants that we were waiting for the courts to decide who gets to prosecute them. I don't think that made us any safer. We essentially we're in a state of limbo. We're breaking that up now, and now people are being prosecuted no matter who you are. So if you get pulled over, you commit a crime, you do all those things, you're going to be held accountable in Tulsa. And then who prosecutes you is the only question at hand. And so we are enforcing the state's laws. We are enforcing our city ordinances, and we're enforcing the laws of this country, while also enforcing the laws of Indian country. And those laws, if you went back and looked, they're all the same. And where there are gaps, we're working through those gaps. That's the work we're doing right now. So if he could do something more aggressive, I'm sure that he would. I don't, for me, again, so everybody listening understands. Supreme Court opinion, Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, I believe, opinion on this deal. We didn't make this up. This is the Constitution of the state and the Constitution of the United States. We didn't make this up. We're figuring out within the environment that we're in, how do we make this city safe? It's a conversation that should have happened, led by the governor, after the McGirt opinion was issued 4 or 5 years ago. We wouldn't be here right now if that weren't the case. The governor was unwilling to do it. He didn't do his job, so I'm doing his job. He decided not to do his job by taking OHP out of the city, so I'm doing his job. At every turn, we're doing his job, and the results speak for themselves. Like I said, crime is down. Our relationships with tribes is on the up and up. We got a lot of work to do, but we're doing the state's job because the governor chooses not to. And I believe that the AG's opinion will back us up on that as it relates to OHP.
As I understand, we're talking just about misdemeanor.
That's right.
So, do you have any information on how many cases have been referred to the Muscogee courts? Have they been? I mean, the complaint is that well, they get referred to the tribal courts and then they're just dropped.
Yeah. That's well. First of all, that's not true. I mean, there is some things. But when I talk about all the technical challenges we're having to work through, one is how do we have transparency when somebody gets sent to a particular court and what happened with that case. That's actually something that's been a part of the conversations we had, and we've gotten commitments from our tribal nations to make sure transparency is there. But I think the other thing should also be applied to our municipal court and state courts. Not everybody who goes to see the district attorney or a prosecutor goes to jail. And so I bet if you did the analysis of both, the numbers would be somewhat similar. I'm happy for us to, I think we've publicized how many cases we've actually sent out to both Cherokee and Creek Nation. I don't have that number off the top of my head. Happy to share. But I think what's important is make sure that as we're thinking about cases that are prosecuted, that we think about that also on the state side, on our side in the city. The analysis, I think, has to be both, because what's not happening is people just don't get prosecuted. I think there's an air of transparency that we need to work through about that process. But I mean, again, I guarantee if you went and did an analysis of every case that's gone to the DA, they're making decisions about who should be prosecuted in certain ways, and sometimes a prosecution doesn't happen. I think that's true in every court, and I'd be really interested in seeing an analysis of all of our courts and how that's working.
Time for one more question. Anything else?
I was just wondering, while we have you here, if you could make a comment about the city council passing that new homeless initiative last night with new housing.
Yeah, I was really proud. I mean, look, it's a piece of a lot of things that we have to do, but it's 300 folks who we're going to work to house and support. Right, that's where that money is going to be going to. I got to say, I hate to bring it up, but this is another big issue. And I know there was a news story where the governor took this tribal agreement and said, this is the reason why homelessness exists in Tulsa and public safety and all this kind of stuff, which is really interesting. So I'm like, well, the guy actually must never ever drive across the state. But Governor 2 years ago got rid of the state's interagency council on homelessness. We just voted last night here in Tulsa 9-0 to work to house and support 300 people, and we're going to continue that work down the road. Again, we're just solving problems that we don't worry about the politics of it. We're just solving problems out in front of us. And so whether that is homelessness, public safety, education, economic development, we're just solving problems. We're doing it with our partners. I'm really proud of the council. I'm really proud of the partnership. And it's helping us on our pathway to get to functional zero by 2030. And I'm really excited about that. I thanked the counselors yesterday. These things aren't easy, but when you have good leaders in a building, and we got 9 folks who are really passionate downstairs, I think they showed this community and frankly the state that not only can we do big things, but we can do hard things. I'm really proud of all 9 of them. Cool. Thank you, guys.